One blanket, one sacrifice, and one lesson learned. Listen to this story from a village in India. When one year the winter arrived earlier than usual, not with fog or rain, but with a cold that slipped in silently and stayed. Even before sunrise, the village lay awake, not because there was work in the house, but because the cold did not allow sleep to last. In this village lived Raghunath with his wife Sita and two sons. Raghunath opened his eyes to the sound of coughing that night. Appa, his younger son whispered, half asleep. The child's ribs moved sharply under his thin shirt, as though even breathing hurt. Raghunath turned his head and looked at his family. His wife Sita lay curled around the children, her shawl pulled tight, thin, worn, and almost useless against the wind that crept in through the cracks of the mud wall. Near Raghunath's feet lay the blanket, the single blanket that belonged to this household. It was once brown, but now almost colorless. The edges of this blanket were so frayed that Sita had stitched them again and again. Each stitch was careful. Each knot was an effort to make one thing last a little longer. Raghunath sat up and rubbed his hands together. The cold bit him back. What about the work in this village? Because of winter, work had been uncertain for weeks. Some mornings, the landlord's men came early. Some days they did not come at all. Hunger had begun to follow the family quietly, never shouting, never leaving. But that morning, no one was called. The laborers stood near the fields, stamping their feet, pretending to talk about crops while their hands and eyes searched for food or for road or for work. Maybe tomorrow, one man said. Yes, tomorrow, the other replied without belief. By midday, the sun appeared briefly but unapologetically because it disappeared again. At the market just then, Raghunath heard voices. Someone said, "The old man. Do you remember the old man who slept near the well? He hasn't woken up. Cold has caught him. The old man is no more." Raghunath slowed his steps. He knew this old man. Everyone did. Once the old man had land and had a family. But his family left him to make a life in the city. And now the old man had nothing except the cold of the village. When Raghunath heard of this demise in the village, he said nothing, he just walked home. That night the cold sharpened. The children shivered in their sleep. Sita pulled them closer and whispered, more to herself than to anyone else, "We'll manage." Raghunath lay awake. The single blanket lay between him and the children. He reached for it, then stopped for a moment. He looked at his son's thin arms, at Sita's tired face, then at the door. Outside, the wind howled like someone asking for something that could not be refused. Raghunath stood up quietly. He picked up the blanket, folded it. Sita stirred. "Where are you going, Raghu?" she said softly. "Just outside," he replied. "With the blanket?" she asked. But Raghunath did not answer. After a pause, Sita said nothing more. No one woke, and Raghunath went out. At dawn, the village gathered near the well. Not out of shock, death was familiar here, but out of habit. The old man's body still lay there, untouched. Why? Because he belonged to no one. People stood at a distance waiting to understand whose responsibility the old man's body was. But someone finally had covered the body. Raghunath stopped at the edge of the crowd. The blanket that covered the old man's body was familiar. Once brown, now colorless, stitched again and again. Years passed. Raghunath's family grew. The children actually stood up for themselves and earned well. Yes, the blanket was still spoken of, not as a loss, but as a lesson. Someone once asked the children, who were now grown-ups, "Didn't your father ever buy you another blanket?" The children shook their heads and replied, "No, he gave us something warmer." Wow. Their children taught them warmth. That warmth does not always come from what we keep, but from what we give away. Because some blankets are not meant to last, they are meant to be remembered. How much I love this story. This is Heena from Tell a Tale with Heena. Take care of yourself. Take care of your heart, of your family. See you very soon.